this is Lindsey Trent with the Next Generation in Trucking Association.
And this is Dave Dein. I'm the CDL coordinator, instructor at Patterson High School, also co-founder of Next Gen in Trucking Association.
We are really excited because we have been working. I've been working for a few years. Dave's been working on this for 7+ years. This curriculum guide that is for all high schools across North America to help you as a teacher be able to turnkey and start a truck driver training program that you don't have to start from the beginning. We're going to talk a little bit about how Dave formed this and his vision behind it, and our vision behind Next Gen. So we are a nonprofit trade association, and we're here to help you as an educator, help bridge the gap between industry and education, and just provide resources for you in your school for the transportation industry. And we're really excited that you are considering starting this program, or maybe you're doing it. So Dave, tell us a little bit about your vision for this curriculum guide.
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, we're just excited. We've been talking about putting together this curriculum for a couple years now. What's great about it is that we now have something tangible, something we can give out to schools for free. It's a resource, it's a curriculum guide, it's turnkey. And I think that's what a lot of schools have been asking for. We've worked with hundreds of schools across the US, and we needed something that could help guide them through the process. This is really designed for a first-year teacher. So somebody who's been in the industry for several years, but they haven't taught in a classroom setting. So it's really kind of designed around, best teaching practices, creating high engagement activities. It just kind of takes it to a different level. And of course, it incorporates what we're most proud of, which is that next gen training model, which is not like, let's say, a typical truck driving school. What's great about this is that we kind of take more of a holistic view of the trucking industry. We focus in on those soft skills. We embed leadership qualities that really enable somebody to leave our program with more than anything else, they got the right mindset to enter into this industry, to have a long, healthy career. And so that's what we're most excited about. It has been a work in progress. We started the Patterson program 7 years ago, and we really wanted to create something that would just not a hands-on CT course, but we really wanted to work closely with our industry partners and create career paths for our students. And so it's been a wonderful journey. We're just so happy we have something we can give out to schools free of charge just to help you start programs.
Yeah, and we just want to take a second to thank a couple foundations that really helped fund this. So the Kenora Brimsip Foundation, which is the parent company to Bendix, which does brakes. And then also the PepsiCo Foundation. Dave, you even donated some money into this. Morningstar Trucking put some money into this. And also Mike Weiner, who actually is from Orange County, California. He donated money towards this project as well, because he sees value in career technical education programs. And we see that as well. And we're really excited to share this with you all. And we worked with one of the best companies that came highly recommended to develop this and to really help it be in a format that you can utilize, right? So it has week 1. This is the ELDT theory lesson, and this is your lesson plan, right? I mean, tell us how it's set up just a little bit.
Yeah, so EDC, or Education Development Center, just fantastic. These are the best of the best when it comes to curriculum development. And they designed it based on teacher needs and simplified it in a way that it does make that information. So especially for a first-year teacher, everything it's laid out so you can actually see week by week not only what lessons to teach, but there's also incorporates the let's say extension activities. So maybe you're saying you want to dig a little bit deeper. If you got the time in that week, yeah, you can add in those extension activities. You're not required to or have to, but it gives you that opportunity to kind of develop the program based on your students' needs, which I think is fantastic.
So tell us a little bit about the ELDT theory component.
Yeah, so our objective for the next gen program is what we do is we teach the entry level driver trained standards, the theory portion. We also prepare students for their commercial learner's permit. And for the ELDT component, we are partnered with Samba Safety. And what I personally like about the Samba Safety program is that it's very engaging. It is video based, but it's not like students can just press play and walk away. They actually have to engage. There's questions embedded. The great thing is that students actually like doing their homework, and that's the best thing. And they come to school the next day with questions that we use as part of our discussion.
And so they can access it on their phones, right? Or on a computer.
Correct. So this is on any digital device. They're actually partnered with Next Generation in Trucking. So they're able to offer the program at a discounted fee for Next Gen members, which is a huge savings to schools.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the different components. So we've got Samba Safety, which is the ELDT theory portion. And really a school can use whatever ELDT theory portion they want to use.
Sure.
I know, for instance, Alabama created their own ELDT theory course as a state. And so in Alabama, it's going to make more sense for them to use their own ELDT theory. But they've got access to JJ Keller resources with 20% off for Next Gen members. Tell us a little bit about JJ Keller and what you're getting from JJ Keller.
Yeah, so once again, a great partner of our association. What we've done, we've isolated all the resources that I use from JJ Keller that I use in my own classroom, and we just made a list of them. This is everything from logbooks to educational posters, to the hours of service logbook page, the large logbook page that they offer there. And anything that school would like to order, it's at a 20% discount, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. And then we can get them connected with WorkLeet, which is a relationship. And you all use that in your program, but you also have other programs in your school that uses that as well, correct?
Yeah, WorkLeet is actually the entire logistics program does subscribe to the WorkLeat because it's transferable. What I like about WorkLeat is that it's very industry specific. So the program that we use as part of the truck driving program, it's different from the program than what is being taught, say, forklifting or supply chain. Now, some of it does, some of it's the same, but it's very industry specific. And that's what I really like about that.
So Dave, tell us a little bit about the Patterson program. And you're teaching your 7th year, so you've really kind of perfected it by now. Tell us a little about how you got the vision and what the teacher is going to be seeing from this curriculum guide.
Yeah, so how we started the Patterson program was that Patterson High School had an existing supply chain and logistics management program. So they were teaching the warehousing skills. We had a separate forklift certification program. They were missing that third component, which I just kind of identified or noticed. So reaching out to the superintendent, we decided to start one of the nation's first high school truck driving programs. And we wanted to do it a little bit different. We wanted to use technology. We wanted to make it really high engaging. We wanted to make it meaningful. And so we just were able to bring in different types of curriculum. We do use driving simulators. Students are required to do 30 hours on the simulators, either before school, after school. And we've seen great success with this as far as building that muscle memory. It builds confidence. It creates a safe environment to fail safely. We know there's a learning curve in driving a truck, and some of those situations can be mitigated through using the simulator. But our primary focus was that we wanted to make sure our students had long, healthy careers. So we have adopted programs such as WorkLeat that teaches the proper body movements to reduce workplace injuries. We've worked with Dr. Mark Manera from the Supply Chain Fitness Company. He's actually created a curriculum for us, which is really about how do you live healthy on the road in a very practical way. It's one thing to tell somebody not to do something like eat healthy, but it's the reason why. And so we look at some statistics that are not too pleasing to, as far as the numbers of drivers who are currently unhealthy in our industry. But we look at what can we do to make those healthy decisions in a very meaningful way. So we learn about nutrition. We learn about physical fitness, how to turn that truck into a personal gym. And then we go out and apply it. So we go out to the truck stops during a field trip, and we do learn how to make those healthy food choices. We'll go out there and we'll do our exercises in the parking lot, and we get sometimes some interesting looks from other drivers, but we're okay with that because we know hopefully we're there to inspire. And we just got to change this mindset as far as, we know some of the negative health benefits that could come with driving a truck, but we also empower those students to make those choices so they don't have to have those negative effects. So yeah, we're very proud of the different components of the program.
That is fantastic. And one question that we get a lot as well is about the structure. And tell us a little bit about your structure, but of your class in the how many hours you have a week with your students, but some people work in block. How can you fit this around to work with this guide?
Yeah, so the Patterson program, the way we're set up is I see students 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. It's 180 days in the school year, so 180 hours of classroom teaching. Students are also required to do the 30 hours of lab session. They can do more, but that's a minimum requirement. If school is doing more of a block schedule, that's fine. We can easily manipulate and create that curriculum can mold to really any type of setting. And that's a great thing about it. So it's not like specific to the way Patterson program is set up. This curriculum can be embedded into any program.
That's great. And so this really is what it is. It's a guide, and it's there to help to develop your program, and we're here to help. So our association wants to be your partner in any way that we can to help develop your program, to help develop you. We're doing a train the trainer once a year at this point. Dave, tell us a little bit about the Train the Trainer program.
Yeah, so last year we hosted our first Train the Trainer event. We just saw a need that, as we said before, a lot of the instructors we work with are first year instructors, and it's just nice to bring people together where we could actually go through that curriculum a little bit when more of a hands-on type setting, and just kind of work through the different components. One of our partners is Advanced Training Systems, which is the company that makes our simulators. They came in and they did a great hands-on tutorial as far as how to use simulation the most effective way. Some of the things to consider when working with somebody who is new to driving. It was just a fantastic 2-day event. And so our plan this year will be hosting our second annual, since this is going to become an annual event now. We'll be hosting that in June 6th and 7th here in Patterson High School in Patterson, California.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Juliuson from Education Development Center, also known as EDC. EDC is a global nonprofit working to improve education, promote health, and to expand economic opportunity. EDC was honored to be invited to work with Dave and Lindsey to create this first of its kind curriculum companion for high school trucking programs. As Dave and Lindsey have told you, the Next Generation in Trucking CDL Curriculum Companion is intended to be really a support and resource for you that helps take the guesswork out of your job. The curriculum has many features that support teachers of all levels of experience, from brand new to veteran teacher, including essential questions, assessments, handouts, videos, and links to resources, and even some optional built-in professional learning for you if you choose to engage in it. So what does the curriculum guide actually look like? The guide is online and it can be accessed from a laptop, tablet, or phone. And so to show you what this looks like, I'm going to take just a few minutes to walk you through what you'll find in the curriculum and how to use it. You can follow along with me as I share my screen and show you the nuts and bolts of what's here. And you can pause and rewind this webinar at any point if you want to hear something again. So when you click on the curriculum link, one of the things you'll find is that you open right up to a section of the curriculum that you're planning to teach. There's 5 sections in total, and they vary in length. So I'm going to show you just one of them so you can see how it's laid out and how you navigate within it. So what you can see, first of all, is that there's a start button here. So you can just click that right away. Or if you want to see the whole thing, you scroll down and you've basically got a little roadmap for everything that is in this particular section. So this section is part A, basic operations. And so if you look at this, you can see that we've got a section overview here that I'll show you in a minute. And you've got 8 modules. So if you scroll down, you can see module 1 through 8. And all of the lessons that are within those modules. Now, each module is about a week in length, roughly, give or take. Sometimes they're 4 days, sometimes they're 5 days. And as Dave mentioned, they're designed to really last using the model of 1 hour per day for 5 days a week. But because they're chunked like this, you can actually teach 2 lessons if you teach in a block schedule, 2 or more. Or if you want to, you can actually spread them out depending on how much time you have in your course. So it's very adaptable. So I'm going to start by clicking on the overview so you can see what's in there. Every single section has an overview, and that overview tells you what the section focuses on, the basic content in that section. So here, part A focuses on introducing the basic operations of a commercial tractor trailer. And we have a definition here for people who may want to refresh on what that includes. And what we also include in the overview is basic operations learning outcomes for students. So every section will have learning outcomes for students listed right at the beginning. You know what they're going to walk away with after they've completed part A. So you know what you're teaching, you know what you're going to assess them on. We also have a modules at a glance kind of roadmap for you, so you can see what each module is about how long it takes, and which ELDT standards they address. So you get that big picture right up front, so you know what you're going to be teaching and you know which standards you're addressing. As you can see, some of the lessons in the module, some of them have 5 lessons, some of them have 4, just depending on the content of the module. In the overview, you'll also see some strategies that just help you basically change it up in the classroom. So every single module has vocabulary in it that relates to CDL licensure. And so what we do is we give you some options for how you might want to do vocabulary with your students. So you might choose to do a slide deck discussion. And if you just click on that, it'll tell you how to do that. Fill in the blank, each one, teach one. These are all classroom teaching strategies that are at your fingertips. So you can click on them and maybe do it a little differently from week to week. So that'll be your choice, but it gives you some ideas. We also include links to external resources. So here, ideas for teaching vocabulary. If you click the link in your curriculum companion, it will take you right out to an article that gives you some quick strategies that you can use in your classroom. So you don't have to go hunting around. You can just click on the links right within the guide. The overviews also contain strategies for teaching daily updates. Daily updates are something that Dave has instituted in his class, and they're a really wonderful way to help students connect what they're learning in the class to what's going on currently in the trucking industry. And so you can see you've got resources you can click on here in order to help your students find current news stories, or for you to find current news stories. So you can talk about those at the beginning of every module. And again, that's something you may want to do a little differently from week to week. So we give you some strategies and ideas for how you might want to teach that content. So what we're going to do next is we're going to move into the anatomy of an actual module. So as you can see, I've clicked on module 1, building the classroom community. And the first thing that you'll see when you click on a module is an overview, just like for the whole section. And in this overview, it gives you just a little quick description of what kind of content students are going to be focusing on. So just a little short summary for you. Basically, you then also have a snapshot that shows you how many lessons and how long those lessons last, along with the guiding questions that serve as the focus for those lessons. And so any notes that you might have, for example, modules A1 and 2 are introductory. Notes that are special to the content or show something unusual are always found here in the overview section for any module. You'll also find a list of things you need to do to prepare to teach that module. So it tells you any copies you need to make, or if you prefer, sometimes it sends you to an online template if you want to use Google Docs or things like that. You'll have resources for all of the handouts that Dave has used at Patterson High School that we've adapted for this curriculum. You have links to outside resources that you might ask students to visit. It gives you recommendations of what to preview, so you can make sure everything is ready to go once you get into the classroom. We also include student learning objectives in the overview of each module, and it tells you what the students are going to walk away with at the beginning of that module. Every overview also includes module materials. So you can see here, I can just click across these tabs, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. It'll tell me what materials I'm going to need to use in those lessons, all at a glance. Also, as mentioned earlier, you do have the option to engage in some professional learning for yourself, and these are included in every module as well. And there's 2 kinds of professional learning that we offer here. One of them is focused on commercial driving and trucking and the content that you're teaching in the course. So we might have some kind of trends or some in-depth looks at some of the topics that you're going to be teaching about. But we also offer classroom management, teaching practice, pedagogy tips. So as you're managing your classroom and you're growing as a teacher, you also can grow yourself by looking at some of these resources and trying out some of the strategies that we provide. So now we're going to take a closer look at an actual lesson, and I'm going to show you a couple of different kinds of lesson because the course as a whole starts off with some introductory activities. So these are a little different from the rest of the course, and that's because in Dave's course at Patterson High School, he really takes time at the beginning of the year to build a classroom community, and that helps pay off later down the road as students are engaged in content-driven learning activities. So here we have actually 2 whole modules that are built around not just building a classroom community, but also in orienting them to the content. How do you use the platform? How do you click the links? What are ELDT standards? So things that they need to know to kind of ground them in the class and prepare them to succeed. So now we're going to take a closer look at how the lessons are designed and how you can navigate within a lesson. First, I want to just note that there are a couple of different kinds of lessons here, because at the beginning of the course, we begin with a focus on building a classroom community and on getting oriented to the curriculum itself. And so modules 1 and 2 are a little bit different from all of the other modules. And you can see that module 1 is focused on building a classroom community, and module 2 is built around student orientation. And we have a different kind that I'll show you in just a minute, but every module starts with a guiding question. And this is really intended to help students find the why behind what they're learning. So in lesson 1, the guiding question is, why are you here? The journey into trucking. So thinking about why students are in the class in the first place. Every lesson contains an overview that describes the overall picture of the lesson that you're going to be teaching. Again, we have teacher preparation steps so that you can click on those and see what you need to do just to get ready. You can preview videos. They're all embedded right here within the curriculum, and you can decide what you're going to use in your class. We also have exit tickets for students that they can use at the end of each class. And so you can download them yourself, you can adapt them, you can use them online. So that is really all up to you, but you have the chance to kind of think that through and prepare ahead of time. We also have a suggestion for you to create your own class syllabus. So this is a little bit different in nature. As you can see, it's a little bit more introductory. Each lesson includes activity steps. So you can see it really takes the guesswork out. It walks you through step 1, step 2, step 3, and it tells you what you're doing. It says, here's what you're going to say to your students. Here's some questions to ask them. It links you to whatever resources you're going to use. So it's very intuitive. You don't have to be clicking around. You can find everything you need right at your fingertips. You can see here are the details. So you can see questions to ask students. You can see a video with student testimonials. And we have homework at the end of every lesson. So now I'm going to show you a different lesson, and this is a lesson that would take place. This is in part B now. So students are now actually exploring the specific ELDT standards. These are not introductory lessons. They're content-driven lessons. And so you'll see they look just slightly different. We still have an overview. So this one's about distracted driving. It has an overview of what this lesson's about. It has a summary of the module, and it has steps to take to prepare for this module, and it has student learning objectives. And one of the things you'll find once you start actually engaging students with the standards is that we list the standard itself, the actual language of the standard, at the beginning of every module. So you'll have that to reference. You can show it to students. So it's going to be there and easy for you to find and refer to as you teach. And so as you go into a lesson that's organized around the ELDT standards, you'll see a lot more emphasis on that. So you have a lesson overview, you have steps for teacher preparation, things like previewing some of the articles, choosing some of the current stories you want to share, vocabulary strategy, and then it'll have activity steps. And as we mentioned earlier, you will often begin with daily updates. So finding current stories about the trucking industry, vocabulary, you can access slide decks there. And we also direct you to some of the platforms that Dave has talked about. So for example, Samba Safety or Workfleet are some of the examples that Dave and Lindsey mentioned earlier in their introduction. We also engage students in something called Preventable or Not. And this is a great activity that Dave does that basically has students look at an accident and determine whether that accident was preventable or not and why. And then they look at the actual ruling in these cases. So it's a really great kind of immediate, just in the moment application of content. One of the things to notice is that at the end of every module, you'll find that on the last lesson, you're asking students to actually take an ELDT online assessment. And this is great practice for when they actually go to take the DMV exam. And the minimum passing score for that is 80%. So students will leave this course having practiced and practiced and practiced. They'll know the format for the test. They'll be able to not feel intimidated by the kinds of questions that they're seeing. And so it gives them this kind of every module they practice and they take this assessment, so you'll know whether or not that they've completed all of the content and they have understanding of the ELDT standard that you've introduced in that lesson. A couple of notes about navigating within the curriculum guide. First of all, you'll see this little clamshell, these 3 lines up here in the top left. This lets you show or hide this left-hand menu. The left-hand menu shows you where you are in the course at any given time. In part B, this will tell you which module you're in, what's been completed, so you can quickly click around and get to different places within the curriculum easily without having to scroll through every one. So that's what that left-hand menu is for. But if you don't like it, you can click on it and it will disappear. So these 3 little lines will let that menu kind of appear and disappear depending on your own preferences. So as Lindsey and Dave mentioned earlier, as you can see, this curriculum guide has a lot of stuff packed into it, and it's a pretty easy to use package. It's pretty simple. So again, you can access it on a laptop or on your phone or a tablet. It features guiding questions, student learning objectives, assessments. It's aligned to industry and CTE standards. It's got career connections and career exploration. It's got integrated professional or soft skills, as some people like to call them. It's got activities that help develop personal health and wellness in the workplace, as Dave was mentioning earlier, and opportunities for students to practice future-ready skills like collaboration and critical thinking. So really, it has it all built in there for you. And so as you use it, you can pick and choose what works for you with your schedule, with the kids that you have. So it's really designed to kind of give you all the resources that you need right in an easy to locate place so that you're not always having to scramble or, as Dave said, go through other people's trash to find your lesson plans. So EDC is just, we're so glad that we got the opportunity to collaborate with Next Generation in Trucking on this CDL curriculum companion guide. Not only because it really is a unique resource for high schools, but also because EDC is committed to connecting schools with community and industry so that students can gain the job skills that they need to thrive both in the present and in the future world. Preparing the talent of the future in an industry as essential as trucking and logistics is vital to our thriving economy and to the students who will help make it. So EDC is very proud to be part of this project, and we hope that this guide helps you as you connect students to their futures. Thank you so much for letting us be part of it.
You have a good story that I think is important to tell about a driver simulator and your student that had that steer tire blowout. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So this is last year, and like I say, I've always been a big believer in driver simulation. I know it works, but I didn't know how well it worked. And last year, I received it was a text message from a graduate. His name was Ricardo, and he was working for Arctic Glacier Ice Company. He was out on Interstate 5 here in California, fully loaded with ice. And he sends me this picture of the right front tire. Just it's gone. It's not even on the rim anymore. But I could see the truck is parked on the shoulder of the road. And he said, "Mr. Dein, this just happened. I'm texting you to thank you for the training that I received in your class because it just saved my life." And he had one of the worst things you can experience as a driver, which is a front tire blowout. And, sadly, a lot of drivers, they just panic brake, and that's the worst thing you can do. But the great thing about simulation, we create this thing called muscle memory. We practice front tire blowouts. And he said when that thing blew, he had no time to think. He reacted. And his foot just instinctually went to the throttle. He just went hard on the throttle, and that gave him that forward momentum, which gave him control of the vehicle. Then he was able to gently put it onto the shoulder. And that's the reason I will never train again without a simulator. And it's like, they do work more than, they're great for shifting and hazard perception and backing, but to know that you could save a life, I mean, there's no way I would train ever. I mean, it needs to be a part of every program.
Hey, I'm really excited to introduce you to David Guess. He is one of our esteemed advisors for the Next Generation in Trucking Curriculum Guide. And David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. I am David Guess. I have been in the trucking industry, specifically tank truck industry, for approximately 30 years. Let me regress a little bit on that. About 25 of that. 5 of that on and off through the years. I've been on van and flatbed as well. But the bulk of my career has been in the tank truck industry, primarily hazmat. My role corporately for the last 4 years, I serve as the Chief Financial Officer for this organization. And prior to that, my career was rooted in safety risk management, driver training, hiring, recruiting, driver retention, those type of things. So the combination of risk management, loss control, coupled with a little bit of education and my current role makes for a very good organizational fit for where I am.
And you are on our advisory council to help us with this standardized curriculum. Why do you think it's important that we've created the first standardized professional truck driver training curriculum specifically for high school seniors?
Okay, well, that's a twofold question. So the first part of that on standardized curriculum, I'm a big fan of anything that's categorized, standardized, and it's the same throughout. Nothing will be worse than teaching, say, a CDL curriculum in the state of Kentucky and to a student, and the next thing you know, 3 years from now, they move to Tennessee or they move to Florida, and everything we taught was completely different from what Florida teaches. That's a bad way. As an educator professionally, I know that standardized curriculum sows, or it plants a firm foundation for someone to build on. The MBA program that I teach in, the curriculum that I teach, I know that if I have students that transfer in from, say, the University of Tennessee or the University of Illinois or whatever, a lot of times they'll say, I had this same curriculum in another school. Well, the theory there that behind that on andragogical learning is that we develop standardized practices. Business is the same. It's kind of like accounting. One of the worst classes to teach are accounting classes because accounting numbers don't change. Accounting is accounting. It's as dry as they come,
Right.
But it's standardized. So flip that over to the trucking industry. You got to have standardized curriculum. People need to know. And my main reason for saying that is from a risk management and safety perspective. That curriculum, the way it's designed, is designed with someone's safety always in mind. I remember going through the curriculum and reading each section and being able to pull out different things that was very specific to risk management. Sure, we teach people how to hook up and back up a trailer and exiting a vehicle, but those are risk management centered focal points. That's why that needs to be standardized, is to have that level of safety in there.
Absolutely. And what is your hope as we scale these programs across the country to high schools so that young people can graduate with their CDL and they can work a career path, go into driving immediately? What's your hope for these young professional drivers as they enter the industry?
The first hope that I would have is that they see this as a career. They see this as a career path. The hope for the new driver coming in is that they like the industry, they like what they do. No one's going to always like where they do it, but as long as they like what they do. So yeah, I can start out as a driver. I can drive for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I can do these things. Then I can say, you know what, maybe I want to go into operations. Maybe I want to go into risk management. We have an individual that works here that started as a driver, spent many years on the road, and he's now our assistant safety director. I mean, he went through those ranks. So just because someone comes in to the industry as a driver, that's a stepping stone. That is a stepping stone for the next thing in your career. Well, I don't want to be anything else. This is all I want to do is I want to drive. Then you know what? There's a path for that as well. I just saw on LinkedIn yesterday, Warner was celebrating a fellow that had been with him 30 years, almost 3.5 million miles safe driving. That's someone who came in and said, this is what I want to do. And this is what I'm going to do to the best of my abilities. So again, the hope is that someone comes in and says, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is really cool. This is what I like.
Right. And no matter if it's driving and doing that for 30 years or becoming an assistant safety director and moving your way up the ranks, it's a great career path. Well, David, thank you so much for being a part of our program and Next Gen. And we really appreciate your support in creating this curriculum guide.
My role at Samba Safety is the subject matter expert for our driver training.
Okay.
So that's really where I fall into. I wear many hats, to whether that's working with the sales folks or working with our production team to develop training content for our customers. So there's lots of different things I do. And then with Dave, I know Dave was looking around for a curriculum that he thought would work for his students, and we were able to work with him to develop some additional pieces that he needed, because at the time his program was subtly different to many other truck driving schools because they were in a much smaller time frame. And obviously Dave was looking at a program that went over a school semester, so we had to develop and incorporate some additional things for him and the team so that they could kind of make that happen in a classroom environment, which isn't typically what most driving schools do.
Right. And why do you think it's important for a high school to have a standardized curriculum like the one that we've just created?
It's not just important for high schools; it's important for any kind of training. Because I've had cases in the past where I've been responsible for training at many locations, and if you kind of have everybody have a free for all to do what they feel is important at their particular site, it may not be applicable to all locations, or it may not even be what you want to teach those students. So having a structured curriculum not only helps with the planning for the facilitator knowing what they're going to be delivering each day, it helps them get familiar with the curriculum, and also it sets out the expectations for the students so they know what to expect and what they're going to be taught and the information they're going to receive over that program.
Yeah. And as a subject matter expert, Roy, what is there anything that stood out about this curriculum to you?
It's very comprehensive. I mean, there's many aspects to the transportation industry, and it's important that the students have a good rounded understanding of what's going on. For many years, talking with the transportation industry, they've always complained about the gap between their driver they would like to hire and the student that's coming out of a driving school. So many companies had to do their own finishing and things like that. So this is really hopefully going to help bridge that gap to give the students a much better understanding. Whereas, many years ago, drivers were just taught really how to pass a test, and that really didn't set them up in any shape or form to actually enter the industry themselves. They were given a set of keys and said, best of luck, learn it as you go along. That's not really the way we want to be doing that in today's modern safety culture.
Yeah. And speaking of safety, how do you think this curriculum guide prepares the future generation in terms of safety?
Oh, it's a huge piece of this, because obviously, we're looking at potentially having them operate very large vehicles, and obviously there are huge implications if they don't do things correctly and safely, which, we're all out on the roads every day, whether we're professional drivers or not. We're interacting with the general public and everybody else. So it's important that, people know how to safely operate their equipment. But also on the other side of that, there's a huge potentials for injuries. These are big, heavy pieces of equipment. So, even just operating and working around them has a huge potential for people to get injured and hurt. So, we have a huge responsibility to make sure that everybody around us and what we're working with is going to be safe, and people are well trained on what they need to do and how to protect themselves.
And if you could tell anything to the teacher that's going to use this curriculum guide, what would you tell them?
In the past, I've had some issues with instructors or facilitators really using the instructor guide verbatim, and it sounds like they're getting a delivery from a robot. I try to encourage the facilitators or instructors to kind of take the information that's provided into these guides, but turn it into their own personal voice and how they would like to deliver that information. Because, everybody's different. We all have different experiences and different things we can bring to the table. And it makes that information much more digestible for the students. And I think it makes it much more effective.
Yeah, that's right. Putting that personal story into it. Roy, thank you so much for your efforts with this curriculum guide and with Dave's program. We appreciate your expert advice on everything.
Thank you, Lindsey. I appreciate it. And I really enjoyed the process.
Hey, this is Lindsey, and I'm here with Dana Shoemate. And Dana, tell us who you're with and a little bit about yourself and your background.
Great. Thanks for having me, Lindsay. I appreciate it. Right now, I'm with the National Career Academy Coalition. I've been working with them for the past 6 months as Director of Strategic Partnerships. But before that, I've been a lot of places. I actually spent 27 years in Jefferson County Public Schools. I always say I was classically trained as an elementary teacher. Started my career there. Did various things throughout the district, but the last 12 years of my tenure there, I was the coordinator for business partnerships for Jefferson County Public Schools.
And with that, I mean, what do you think? So you were an expert advisor on this curriculum. And how do you think that your experience and the importance of this type of program out in the community and within schools and the partnerships with businesses?
What I think really got me excited when Jess Juliuson was telling me about this program was when I was in Oregon, worked a lot with timber products. And timber products is a lot of different little divisions, but one, they have their own timber products trucking. And it was a struggle. And this was, 5-7 years ago, we started this conversation. There were no truck drivers. What are we going to do? How do we build this? How do we get people to know about the wonderful opportunities that this career can provide for a person and their family? So we started just, having these conversations, but then you get the roadblocks. Well, they're not old enough, or they don't know. And, they've never even been talking about it. So we started thinking there, how do we dial it back? How can we start introducing this to schools, to students, to parents, to the communities, to plant that seed, like look at what we have out there. So that, to me, that was one of probably the most exciting thing when I heard about this curriculum and what had been happening and the plans to grow it.
Yeah, there's just needs all over the country, whether it's a rural community or urban. Truck drivers are in high demand, and it's only going to grow. Freight is growing, as well as the driver shortage because of the aging workforce. And so just the opportunities for young people to become drivers and to make a career out of it, to make a career in the trucking industry, starting off with this opportunity and building up that pipeline and helping a young person build up a great career. That's what this program is all about. And thank you so much for your support in it. and all the efforts that you've had over the years within education.
Well, like I said, thank you. I appreciate your kind words. Very excited. And it's amazing. I found as well, if I talk to people about it, they're like, what? Tell me more. What do you mean? We can start talking to our high school kids. That's a possibility. So I'm just excited to see where this lands and how many people it's going to touch. And I think it's going to be a lot.
Absolutely. I want to introduce you to Mark Manera from the Supply Chain Fitness Company. He was also a part of the curriculum guide in our advisory board. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I have a unique and interesting background compared to a lot of the other people that were on the board, just because my background does not come from supply chain, transportation, trucking. So my background is I have a doctorate degree in physical therapy, and 3 years ago I was working in a PT clinic here in St. Louis, my hometown, and in walked in a bunch of truck drivers, and it was really my first time getting to know drivers on a personal level, getting to the industry from a driver's perspective. And honestly, the first time that I saw what 20, 30 years behind the wheel can do to someone's health. And it threw me down this rabbit hole of the trucking industry. And I haven't looked back since. And I've been on this mission to really change the way the industry looks at the health of these professional drivers. And it's opened up so many opportunities and doors. And being a part of this committee was one of those that was just really exciting, because to me, as we look at some of these stats that we all know in the industry of just how terrible, from a health perspective, being a CDL driver can be. When I think about the long-term solution of how we change those stats, how we give drivers literal years back on their life, it starts at the CDL training, at the CDL school level. And so for me, it's a huge part of my mission to align ourselves with the people that are trying to, start from the ground up and really get the next generation in. And that's why I was really excited to be a part of it.
So why do you think it's important to have a standardized curriculum that includes the Supply Chain Fitness Company? Kind of a
Yeah, I
twofold
mean,
question.
yeah, I think the biggest part is from a quality control standpoint, right? And especially as we're going in and you're trying to get and create more schools and more, bring in more teachers. I think you're going to run into a couple of different people. You're going to run into some teachers that have been in the trucking industry, or the CD has been a CDL driver who never or never taught before, right? And they know everything they know about the truck and the lifestyle of a driver, but if they cannot present that in a way that students understand and meeting them where they're at, you're going to lose a lot of students and you're going to lose a lot of people. And so creating a standardized approach that helps the teacher know how to guide the discussion and guide the year-long curriculum, along with that meets each student where they're at and progresses with them and uses scientific, science-based and research-based educational styles and approaches, I think is like that 1-2 punch that really creates a program that is going to really open up a lot of people's eyes to the opportunity of think about trucking as their first career.
Yeah, and in terms of your content, tell us about just a little bit, a snapshot of what your content and what it includes in this curriculum guide.
Yeah, so our content is really focused on the ABCs and the basics of health and wellness, and really focused on combination of physical health when it comes to being more physically active, eating better, sleeping better, along with some mental health as well, and some just areas of general, um, getting ahead of your health and getting connected to the healthcare world, from skin checks with skin cancer to getting a primary care doctor. And it's a lot of these basics that, unfortunately, health class in high school often gets overlooked, and it doesn't feel actionable to students. And then on the flip side, when you get into your career, especially in trucking, it's something that you get 30, 40 years into your career and you look back and you're like, geez, I wish I would have started this on day one. And we're really focused on showing students, teaching them how to understand the basics of health and wellness, but then also how to apply that to the lifestyle of a driver or someone who's in the shop or just someone who is in the supply chain, because this industry is so demanding that it's so easy to get caught up in the day to day and let your health be, put on the back burner. And so our focus is to teach these students, the basics, get them in the rhythm and creating those habits, when they're still in high school or when they're still in the CDL training, and then show them how to adapt that to, I guess the workforce lifestyle once they graduate and join the trucking industry.
Yeah, that's right. And we all have to take our health into our own hands because we are responsible. But if we can give the toolkit, the resources to these young people to help them get on the right track, I think we're going to be so much better off as an industry, as a country, because these drivers are going to be bringing us all the products that we have around us, the food we eat, the medicine that we take, everything that you can see in this room. Mark, thank you for your contributions, and we are excited to see where this will take us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me a part of it, and yeah, having me a part of the mission overall.